Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. All right, I am pleased to welcome Giovanna to the show. Welcome, Giovanna.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited that I get to chat with you. So we're going to start the conversation by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Giovanna Silvestre, and I am actually in Los Angeles right now with the fires, but I am okay. I've lived in Los Angeles for over a decade now, and I have worked in Hollywood for several years, and then I went on to start my own business called Confused Girl in the City. And it started out as a vlog because I was really confused and was like, why am I here? Who am I? And that led to me starting a yoga wear line that is inspired by healing crystals. All of my designs are inspired by healing crystals. I'm actually wearing my hoodie right now, Choose Love.
Yes.
And then after the yoga line started doing really well, I started that about a decade ago, I decided I wanted to travel the world and write a book. And so now I have a book coming out, and that's called Confused Girl, Find Your Peace in the Chaos.
Yes. All right. I absolutely love it. So if you want to see the apparel, you have to go watch it. So if you're listening, make sure you go over to YouTube and you can see it. Let's talk about the book.
Yes.
So let's start there. Let's talk about what inspired you to write this. You said you were confused in the city.
Yes. Very confused. Very confused in LA. It's a very confusing place. So I kind of have to go back a little bit because in my late 20s, I went through a really dark depression. And now I realize that the reason why I fell into that depression is because up until then, I had constantly been living my life trying to look good to other people or do what I thought my family would approve of and be happy with. And so everything was very external, and I had been ignoring myself. And the universe was like, you are not going to ignore you. We're going to make this so damn painful for you that you are not going to ignore yourself anymore. And yeah, I went through a really rough period, but I was able to bring myself out of that. And once I wasn't feeling depressed anymore, I'm like, okay, well, who am I and why am I here? I do want to say, I do think anybody going through a really bad depression, I don't think it's wise when you're in that place to think about what is my purpose here. You just need to get yourself out of that darkness. And then once you're out of the darkness, then ask that question. Because when you're depressed, you don't need that extra pressure on yourself. You need like a lot of self-care and really to take care of yourself, learn to love yourself in that moment. And after you have a basis of self-love, then you can go, okay, why am I here? Let's have some fun with this life. And so that's basically what happened. I was able to establish a foundation of self-love, which is ever growing. And then I go, okay, well, why? What am I doing here? Why am I here? And I was hanging out with all of these incredible girls who were doing all these things. One was an actress, one was an author, one was a blogger and volunteered. And they asked me what I wanted to do. And this was a decade ago. So blogging was the thing to be creative. So I was like, I'd really like to start a video blog called Confused Girl in the City because I'm confused and that's the most authentic thing about myself right now. And they were like, and so they went online to see if the domain name was taken, and it wasn't. So I bought the domain name confusedgirlinthecity.com. So with my vlog, I'm like, okay, well, where do I want to take this? And I decided that in an attempt to get to know who I was and what I liked, I was going to do one new thing every week that I had never done before to really go, okay, I'm not doing this because it's the new thing to do. Like I remember hiking was a big thing. Like everyone was going hiking all the time. And then I was like, I want to like hiking, but I don't. I don't really like walking. I don't really like hiking. Yeah, so I went on this like journey to discover myself, and then that led into starting my yoga wear line, which led into the book. So the inspiration for the book came, I was driving to my parents' house, and literally, I never thought I would write a book before. This inspiration just hit me, and my body filled with all this joy and happiness. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to write a book. This is so exciting. And then I went home and I told my parents, hey, mom and dad, I'm going to write a book. And they're like, okay, she's on to her next thing now.
I'm going to write a book.
How's it going to write a book? They're like, okay. And I did. And it got published. And it's been the most incredible journey of my life. It's been totally wild.
Yes. Love that. So talk a little bit about, so in the book, right, did you use some of the experiences as you were sort of evolving when you said, I'm going to do something new? If I'm picking up your book, what can I expect?
Well, the premise of the book is that confusion is a virtue.
Okay.
And the thing is people, apparently I've heard that they've never heard that before. Like, confusion is a virtue. How is confusion a virtue? Like, nobody wants to be confused. Even when I came up with the name for my brand, one of the reasons why I called it Confused Girl is because before I would shame myself when I felt like I didn't have all the answers. I would shame myself and I would feel like worthless. And with Confused Girl, I'm like, why should I feel that way? We're all going to go through periods of confusion. It doesn't make any sense to shame ourselves when this is just a period of discovery and learning and evolving. And isn't that what life really is? And so I think of confusion as a virtue because when you're confused and you can go, okay, I'm confused right now. And then you're going to do something about it. You're going to put yourself on a path of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And you can bring in curiosity into that as well. And like, oh my gosh, what am I going to discover? How am I going to grow? How am I going to evolve? Versus, oh, I know everything. I got it. Like this one lady told me, you should call your brand Grounded Girl. And I was like, Grounded Girl doesn't need the help that Confused Girl needs, lady. Okay. And
thanks, but no thanks, lady.
Exactly. So yeah, so the premise is that confusion is a virtue and how you can, and I very much go into when I worked in Hollywood and then when I thought I would take over my parents' business and how I spent most of my 20s doing those two things. And then when I got to my late 20s, I was like, I'm miserable. I don't know who I am. I don't want to do those things anymore. And I broke up with my boyfriend. I had no career. I didn't have any money. I didn't know who I was. And my brain was on this default operating system of my shortcomings and how I wasn't worthy and how I wasn't good enough. And so from there, I made an intention that someday I want to feel good just in my skin without anything external changing. I don't want to feel good because I have a new man. I don't want to feel good because I have more money. I don't want to feel good because I ran a marathon. I just want to feel good because I love myself. I'm worthy of being here and I exist.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
And I'm like, if I can accomplish that, then there's like no telling where I can go because that's the ultimate freedom.
Yeah.
Is not buying into all the illusions of everything.
Yes. And also too, I just love what you said. The reason why your brand resonates is because it's the most authentic thing like you can say to someone is that I don't have it together.
Yeah.
And someone else can be thinking the exact same thing. Like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one. And I don't know, no matter how many times we experience things, we go through things in life, there is always going to be someone else who is experiencing. You're never alone in how you might be feeling. So having a tool like yours is just like, it's just real. It's raw. Like,
yeah, exactly. And that's why, and it's funny too, that people like yourself, authentic, vulnerable, talking about self-help and self-improvement, you love it, you get it. But there are people that don't like the name Confused Girl are the ones that never want to be confused. They like reject confusion. And then they're just a copycat of somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Because that's the only other option. If you're never confused and figuring out stuff for yourself from your true nature, then you're copying a formula somebody else created.
Yeah. And you'll never discover. And that's the other thing. Like, I think the confusion leads to, like you said, the self discovery. It
Yeah.
leads to learning about who you are and helping you take that next step to figure out what life you want to create for yourself.
Exactly. That's the whole premise. Because I'm not the type of person that's like, you need to do this, and you need to live like this, and you need to believe in this, and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, 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 no. I would like to be here as a guide to help you get in touch with your true nature so then you could go out and live your best life.
Yeah. Yeah. And your life, because we're all individuals, we're all unique. And there's a life that is for Giovanna, there's a life for Kyra, and
Yeah.
we have to walk in it. And like you said, I think, like, yes, unfortunately, we do live in a society where it is very much a copycat formula. Yeah, we talk about this a lot on the show. Don't get me wrong. I do. I love social media. I love watching funny videos and things.
Yeah.
But there is also the very ugly side of people seeing someone's life and trying to mimic or feeling, like, oh my gosh, I'm letting myself down because my life doesn't look like this. And the truth of the matter is that everybody's life is different. And we have to still remember with social media, most people are only showing you the good stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I write about that quite a bit in my book. And I also talk about comparisons.
Yes.
And comparisons, and I used to compare myself to people a lot. And that is such a dangerous thing to do. And it's such a slippery slope down the rabbit hole into feeling worthless and to feeling, because when we compare, we're not comparing our highlight reel to somebody else's behind the scenes. We're comparing our behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reel.
Right.
And so you're only seeing what they want you to see. And you don't know what's really going on in somebody's life.
Exactly. Yeah.
To really remind yourself of that. And I actually tell a story in my book about this girl in college who I was jealous of, and she was a friend of my friend's. And I just thought, oh my God, she's so gorgeous, and she has the perfect body, and she has like hottest boyfriend, and she has all the nice designer things. And she just seemed perfect. Like, she seemed perfect. And anytime I looked at her, I would feel bad about myself. Like, I just didn't quite add up to her, right? It's so interesting how life is, and that I put this in my book years later. But years later, like a decade later after college, I was finding influencers for my yoga wear brand. This one girl I found, she went to my school, she had a good following. So I was just looking at her feed to see how we could collaborate. And then I see a picture of that girl that I was jealous of in college. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. We all went to college together, right? I read the caption and it said, like, we miss you so much. I still can't believe you're not with us. That girl died.
Oh my goodness.
Come to find out, she died of some kind of cancer.
Oh, wow.
Before 30.
Oh.
And then that moment, I mean, I had already been working on comparisons and I already wasn't doing it that much, but that was just like a slap in the face. Like, don't you do that again. When you find yourself comparing, just stop, because look I'm here and she's not. And in that moment, maybe as a young adult, I would have wanted to trade places with her, but you don't know what's going to happen in somebody's life. We highlight reels. We all have low light reels.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, you never
go through it.
Yeah, you never know what someone else is going through at the end of the day. You just don't. And you have to allow not only yourself, you have to give yourself grace, because we're still human at the end of the day, and we're doing the work, but we're still human. And there will be times where you may see something you're like, oh yeah, it would be nice to do that too. But as my therapist always says, don't allow for it to live in rent free. Sit in it for a moment, but move on. But don't sit there. And I think that's probably the thing that happens to a lot of people, is that they just let it just take up a residence. And then they're always thinking about it all the time. But I think it's something important. Like, I had a coworker say a couple weeks ago, who was like, well, I'm not on social media at all, because she was like, I have a social media just to follow like the brands that I work with, but like, I don't have it. She was like, because I used to compare myself. I would compare myself to my friends, other people, and the lives that they had. And I just think there's something really amazing about the vulnerability of being able to say, that's why I had to step away, because I can't trust myself in doing that. And I think while you may be listening, watching, saying like, oh yeah, that doesn't bother me. But just remember that we all have things.
Yes. Yes. It's so true. It's absolutely so true. And I have a friend, and I just want to say this because he's a straight male, and he was being vulnerable to me and told me he was doing the same thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like, it's always just women who are doing, you don't think men do this, but men do as well. And he's like, I just saw everybody, he's unemployed right now and maybe not in the best spot. And he's just like, I see everybody on vacation and doing all these things and da, 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 da. But he is a successful, good looking man. And he's like, I had to take it off my phone, like stop. And I'm like, you know what? That is such great self-awareness to be able to know the things that bug you out and then be able to regulate yourself. Exactly. And not torture yourself, not room. That's like self-love and practice right there. And so something else I also wrote in my book is a good practice I started to do when I would feel envious about someone having something that I wanted. It's a Hawaiian blessing. It's called the Huna Hawaiian blessing. And it says, bless that which you desire. So like if there was like somebody in a car I wanted, for instance, right? And I see, and and then I want that car. And it's like, okay, you know what? Bless you and your beautiful car. Like I'm sending you a blessing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think that's a really good way to also soften the green eye, is just bless that which you desire. I think that's a beautiful thing. And another tip here when it comes to comparisons, instead of getting all jealous and then putting yourself down and making yourself feel like you're not good enough, like for instance, it could be somebody at work that just did a bunch of sales or something. So instead of like hating on them, be like, hey, I would like to take you to lunch and I'd like to ask you some questions about it and everything. Would that be okay with you? And then, they could be like, yeah, that's great. Okay. A lot of people want to share, and then sit down with them and be like, okay, well, what was your strategy? What was some things? Why immediately when you see someone have what you desire, why immediately go to, I'm not good enough and then have that and I hate them, and that's when you go into victim mode. Everybody's against me, everything's against me, I didn't get set up like that person did, or blah blah blah. It can go into all these different things, and it's like, even if that's true in a way, it's not helping your current situation because you can't like put yourself in their life. So why not? You're blessed to be here, so why not do the best with what you have? And once you start doing that, it's really amazing the miracles that come through.
Yeah. I love that. No, I love that. And I really appreciate you just being so open about your journey, because I think more people need to hear that. People just need to know. Like, because I feel like, we're in a time too where a lot of people are confused. A lot of people want more. A lot of people want to figure out, how do I get to that next level? Obviously, here on this show, we have a lot of people who come on who are entrepreneurs, a lot of professionals, but a lot of people are looking for and seeking like that next thing in their life. A lot of people are seeking that freedom and flexibility. And I just think like, talking to entrepreneurs like yourself and you just being so open about your own journey. I mean, I think it's always inspiring to people to like, I can do it too. It's not reserved for opportunities, not reserved for just one person. And like you said, your even story you just talked about with saying if there were someone who got promoted or got more sales or whatever, I mean, the opportunity is not just designed for them. Now, the opportunity, it may just be the season for them. Like it may be their time. It may be their season. They're stepping into it. But what you can do by using Giovanna's example is that you can prepare yourself for your own blessing.
Yes.
And the talking to them and understanding how they did what they did and thinking about how you can apply it to your own situation. So yeah, I think we have to definitely, if we could, gosh, if we could scrap the comparison mindset. And I know it's a lot easier, and I'm not saying I'm not coming down on anybody because we're all human.
Yeah.
But it takes steps to get there. But I think like you definitely have to surround yourself. I think I was listening to, I don't know what I saw this on. I think it's this clip that kept going around with like, I don't know, maybe Gail and Oprah talking about like something about like you can't be friends with people who are jealous of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time like I would hear bits and pieces, I was like, that is so true. Just because like if somebody, I mean, like if somebody's like actively on the sidelines, supposed to be your supporter, and they're at the same time like envious of what you have, not like supporting you or rooting you on and saying like no, I'm learning from you like so and so because I want to see how I can apply it to my life. But if somebody is actively out there like behind the scenes saying, oh my God, that Giovanna, like, oh,
Right. Right. It's like a silent saboteur, like,
right.
trying to, is immediately when you see someone trying to sabotage you in your life, you got to cut that.
Yeah,
You have to,
yeah.
I think it's normal. I think it's normal. Like, for instance, let's say I'm going through a bad moment and my friend's going through like a high moment, like the timing, it's her timing. I might be envious because she's in her timing and I'm not in mine. And
right. Yeah.
but I in no way would want to take anything from her or bring her down or be like,
yeah, or not be supportive.
No, or not be supportive. I'm like my friend's like greatest cheerleader when they achieve things. I'm their greatest cheerleaders. But I mean, it is normal to feel a pinch of envy, especially through a hard time and someone else is going through a great time. That's just normal. But I think in those times too, it's like, just remember, because you said their timing hit. And my friend used to tell me that all the time because I mean, this has been a long journey with Confused Girl and I put so much into it and it's given me so much too. But it was like, okay, like when is my timing? When is it really going to hit? And my friend's like, life is all about timing. Life is all about, and I would kind of like roll my eyes and be like, I don't want to hear that. I don't have a lot of patience. I've been made to have patience, but it's not natural to me to be patient.
Yeah.
Like with my book, for instance, I wrote it. It took me I wrote it mostly when I was living in Indonesia for a year. And then I wrote the rest of it in Berlin. Came back. It was COVID. I was able to get a really brilliant literary agent. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm set. This is amazing. I can't believe this is all happening. And then for 2 years, I was rejected by publishers. It was like rejection. It was a lot of rejection. And I thought to myself, in those 2 years, of course, like self-doubt crept in. And I was like, observe it, like, oh, did I reach too high? Was I out of my depth because I'm a first-time author? But the cool thing is, and this is from the work I did coming out of my depression, where I said my intention is not to have my self-worth attached to anything external. So my self-worth and this book were never attached to each other. And that's actually, I love that just happened for me naturally. Even 2 years where I was getting rejected, I literally was having a blast. I was with my family. I was enjoying time with them. They started to open up. I was going out a lot and I was traveling around and I was having a great time. I wasn't like, but old me would have been clinging to that project, would have felt like so worthless and like, oh yeah, I knew I wasn't good enough. I knew I couldn't do that. That would have been replaying in my head over and over again. And I would have just been miserable. And then I probably would have destroyed whatever opportunity was going to come to me because of the energy and then the control and the desperation I would have been putting on it.
Yeah.
But instead, walking my talk and I'm having a great time. And then 2 months before my father passed away, 2 publishing companies had a bidding war on my book.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like timing. The timing hit and it hit it couldn't have been in a more beautiful way. It hit before my father passed away. My father got to know that I was going to be a published author. He was like, she's going to be okay. He was so proud of me, because he was an immigrant to this country from Italy. And it was like, oh my gosh. And then 2 publishing companies, I thought I was going to get lucky to get like 1 publishing company and probably barely get even an advance. And they only have 2 publishing companies having a bidding war on it, and I'm getting a bigger advance than I ever thought was possible. And then everything about this has been bigger than I ever thought like possible. Even just, and this goes back to timing. And this goes back to letting go and flowing and not having your self-worth attached to whatever you're doing. So I was told even that by my agent, because I said, oh, I can't wait to figure out what like the cover is going to look like and what photo is going to go on it. And she's like, oh, honey, you're not going to be on the cover. She's like, only big celebrities are on the covers. She's like, maybe your next one, but not this one. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. It's not a vanity project. It would have been cool, but okay,
right.
Whatever. And the publishing company, when they were designing my cover, the graphic designer, she put a picture of me on the cover. I'm little, but like,
yes, but there you are.
I'm on the G.
Yes.
And it's like, whoa, I didn't even have to push for that. I didn't have to fight.
Right.
I didn't have to demand that. I just was like, okay, whatever. You guys know best. Bam. And then even I was told I was going to have to audition to do the audio for it. And I was like, but there's a possibility they wouldn't pick me and they'd pick somebody else. And that's in the contract. I would be first to audition. Never even had to audition for it. They just emailed me last week and was like, we're doing the audio and this is what we want to pay you. I'm like, fantastic.
I love it. It. Yes.
It's like, so this is what they mean about being in the flow.
Yeah. Yes. You're like, And I love something that you said that I think a lot of people can benefit from. It's just like you said, your self-worth wasn't attached to the project. You weren't holding on to it. You were living your life. And what most people would say, I'm waiting, right? I'm in this waiting, patiently in this waiting pattern. But you were still living life. And I think like something you said reminded me of an affirmation that I read every day too. It's like, in 2025, it's like, I will be rewarded for my consistency. All I have to do is try. So when you think about like all these people, anyone out there watching, listening, you've been doing a thing and you've been consistently doing a thing. And maybe it feels like it's not catching steam. It's not there yet. You're like, oh my God, like how long do I have to do the thing? But I just think that there's something to manifesting that, affirming yourself and saying that this is going to be the year where it happens for me. All I have to do is just be consistent, keep doing what I was doing. And I think just like even hearing your story in this journey, I mean, like you went from, like you said, rejection to 2 companies bidding for your book, your agent saying, oh, you're not going to be on the book, to them putting you on the book, to them saying, well, you're at the audition to read the audio for your own book. And then just last week reaching out to you saying, oh, by the way, here's what we want to pay you to read the audio.
I mean, it's literally, it's like a bunch of little miracles and it's been, that part's been effortless, and I really believe this. I really do believe life is a dance and you have to show up to the dance floor, looking good, knowing your steps, prepared, and then your partner is life. And you have to let your partner feed you on the dance floor. So it's not like you just sit on the couch and don't do anything and you're manifesting. That's not going to work.
Yeah, man, you got to put the work in. You got to meet it halfway and do something.
Yeah. But this is also another funny thing. So old me did not trust and did not have that, I mean, I always believed in God and had faith in that sense, but I didn't have faith that, God was going to come in and help me with my life. It was like, if I'm going to do something, I have to make it happen. So I wouldn't let things happen.
Yeah.
You would just
You
go.
weren't trusting.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't trusting. I wasn't like, letting life do its part. And nothing but hit as big as I thought it would, because it's like I was controlling and forcing it too much. But then the book was the one thing that I did differently than everything else in my life. And I really just let this flow and did not push. I did the work, I showed up, but I did not control. It wasn't desperate. It was very different in other
Yeah.
things. And then it's like, whoa, okay. Like now I'm being rewarded for being able to do that.
It's like your season, girl. You walk into your blessings. And you were trusting, and your faith was there. You had faith in the process that is your journey. And so it's definitely really amazing to hear, because I know you are right now you are affirming and giving life to a lot of people who might be listening in just their own journeys. That it is about your consistency, your ability to trust and to let go. Because yes, as people who of faith who are believers, like yes, we can do our part, but at some point we have to step back and say, okay, this is what I believe. This is what I prayed about. And I have to let God take it from here. He's like, I don't need you to do the miracle.
Yeah. And then exactly.
Yeah.
You have to surrender to it.
Yes. He like, get your hands off the pot. Okay. I don't need you to
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's so interesting because I would say before this, I was choosing to have faith and choosing to believe and keep going. And now I just do, because it's like now I have some evidence. And so that this worked.
Yeah.
And so, and that's whole part of the testing you. Like this
Yeah.
is a test too, to
Yeah.
see how much faith you have, how much
Yes.
you're willing to trust, how much you're willing to put on the line and
Yes.
go and really believe. And it's really quite incredible. And it's a very exciting way to live.
Well, I think what happens sometimes is that like you almost live every day in expectation.
Yeah.
There is like, so like I get up and I'm like, what are we doing today, God? What you got for me? And some days it's like the smallest thing, right? It be an everyday thing, but just it made something small, like something like mundane, like seem so big, right? Because
Yeah.
I'll get this is a very this I guess this is a good example, something I didn't even think about. So I was watching a show with my husband last week, and there was a reference in the show about these two people that were dating. And the guy was like, oh yeah, the lady said, oh yeah, remember like it was in seventh grade. She's like, I'm sure you don't remember that. And he was like, yeah, like it was the seventh grade dance and you were wearing a green dress. And I just like chuckled because it was funny. I was like, oh, that's cute. He remembered. And then my husband goes, and he goes, oh yeah, like he said, yeah, you were wearing that denim jacket that night I met you. And I thought to myself, I was like, I had to really remember it. I was like, oh, that's right. I was wearing a yellow top, jeans, a denim jacket, but it's almost been 25 years ago. And the fact that he remembered that, like in all these years of being together, like I just never thought like he remembered that moment. But it was just such a small thing that God sent I felt like as a reminder to me that's like, no, because sometimes you think just because he's a guy that he doesn't hold sentimental value of things.
Yes. Yes. Totally.
And it was like that, him saying like, no.
Yeah. He's like, no, I remember. I remember.
Yeah. Girl, I was like, wait, what?
I love, but I think they're just so much of life feels like there's so many things I don't remember. Even last week,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
like I don't remember what I was doing at this time last week or what I was wearing or whatever. There's so much of life that's just like a fog of things that you get. But then I think there are these destiny moments, like destined moments. And sometimes like it's great if certain people's relationship work out. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it's a lesson that wasn't that great. It wasn't that fun to learn, but you had to learn. moments in your life where you're like, oh my gosh, I remember the detail of every little thing.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
had those too, where it just was like,
Yes, I remember. Yeah,
yeah.
I
And I do believe that. I do believe that certain people come into your life at certain times because
Mhm.
certain things are supposed to happen.
For sure.
Yeah, I kind of believe it's
I
destiny.
I say it's the people are there for reasons and they could be there for seasons. Not
Yeah.
everybody is there forever.
Yeah.
Some people are just there for a short period of time, and then there's some people who are going to be there forever. And I think like when we can get to a place to where we can embrace that, because I think so many times, like, of course, we meet friends, we meet significant others, partners, and we want those people to be there forever because in that moment it feels like forever. But I'm here to tell you if you live long enough, you'll go through friends. Friends will leave and partners will leave, significant others will leave, jobs will leave, all those things will leave. But I think it's important to just try to take the lessons and the good things from them. Because I think so many times people just try to hold on to things because they think like, and I think like a lot of this shifted for me like during the pandemic. Because pre-pandemic, let's just be real. A lot of us are out hanging out in the streets with people, like just to be hanging out. And then some of those relationships had run their course, but we were still trying to hold on to them because it felt comfortable. And, and we like the people. So we want to keep being around the people. But I think like during the pandemic and having that time, it just allowed for a different way of thinking to say, I mean, life is not promised. So if it's not promised, I want to make sure I'm spending the time the way I should be spending the time and with the people that I should be spending it with. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I offended a lot of people as we were coming out the pandemic when I was just like, yeah, well, I'm good. Like, I don't necessarily need to be around this person. It doesn't mean I don't care about them and I don't wish for the best for them. But it's just, I think our time together has just run its course.
Yeah. It's because even before we started recording, I kind of told you this about
Yeah.
my like end of December, early January. And
Yes.
like, so as I just told you, I have like all of these like little miracles happening for me with my
Mhm.
book and, that's
Mhm.
going great. And I'm so grateful. And then in late December, before the holidays, it was like I had falling outs with a bunch of people. A really close friend of mine, I was like, I cannot see her for a while. Like or I don't know where that's gonna go yet, but I'm like, I can't be in that energy. And there's just sometimes she really doesn't treat me the way I want to be treated. And I'm like, I just can't. And then I felt so lonely. I was like, I'm so lonely. I guess the universe just wants me to be alone. I hate you guys. I was feeling really bitter and sad about it. And then what's interesting is there has been like a couple of different people who have come into my life recently that, hey, let's go out or let's go do something, or like new people.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I understand now that they took those other people out of my life because that is not the right energy I need to be around
Mhm.
right now as I'm promoting my book and doing all of
Yes.
stuff. I don't need that energy around me. And so again, I had to trust. I
Yes.
wanted people around me. I didn't want to feel so alone, but I was like, okay, I'm trusting that this is all happening because for a reason. Like I'm not supposed to be around
Mhm.
these people.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to be alone. It's okay to be lonely. It's okay to go through a period of thinking, oh my gosh, I have no friends. That's okay because if you can sit in that and you can honor yourself enough to be
Mhm.
like that, then the door that opens and the people that come will treat you better than what has gone. And that's what I kind of said to myself. I'm like, you know what? I don't deserve people treating me this way anymore. And I
Yeah.
don't want to put up with it. And even
Yeah.
though I love them, even though I know it's coming from their own trauma and stuff, I don't want to be subjected to it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I believe them. So
Oh, I'm so sorry. And at some point too, like you said, I mean, if it's coming from a place for them where they need to do the work, because it's like maybe because a lot of times what happens, right? Like we're doing the work. you're doing the work, and then the other people that you're around, they're not doing the work. And my therapist always says, it's like the train is leaving the station. You can either get on the train and do the work too, or you can be left at the station.
Yeah.
And I think that that is definitely a way that I always look at some of these relationships that maybe like just kind of you get to a place where it's just like, well, there's not really that connection there anymore. And it's like, oh, I just left them at the station. I wish them
Yeah.
well and I waved goodbye. But yeah,
Mhm.
right. But it's okay. And it's okay. And we won't sit in it. But like you said, you honor the feelings. You honor the feelings of loss
Yes.
and the feelings of missing and mourning a relationship or, but the next day, month, year, whatever, you'll find something new. Something else will be sent to you. Someone else will fill that space for you and you'll be better for it.
Yeah. I really, really love the leaving them at the station. I just imagine myself like on the train going, bye, bye.
Yeah, as I was saying,
He's like
I was at the station
yeah.
too, waving.
I love that. I love that because I'm such a travel girl too, and I love trains. So I'm gonna remember that one. That's a good one. Feeling
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have so enjoyed chatting with you. I want you to tell everybody how they can find you online, when they can get the book.
okay.
We definitely want to make sure that people are supporting and getting the book.
Yes. So the book is called Confused Girl, Find Your Peace in the Chaos, and you can pre-order it right now on Amazon. And if you pre-order it and send me an email, and you can go to my website and you can order the book from my website too, and you can send me an email of your purchase. And then you'll enter to win $100 gift card from my store.
Okay.
And my website is confusedgirlinthecity.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram and keep up with all my craziness at Confused Girl LA.
Nice. And we will also drop the links in the show notes as well. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to transition into three things with Giovanna. I'm going to ask you three questions. That just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. The first question is one I'd love to ask people. I'm so fascinated by how people start and end the day.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I start my day first thing, cappuccino. I have two, I'm so Italian. I have two cappuccino machines and I have my oat milk and oh my God, I love it. And then I just like sit down on my couch and I just thaw out for like an hour with my coffee. And it's it's one of my happiest moments of the day. I love it. And then a lot of times I'll end the day with a bath. I spoil myself.
All right, girl. Because if you don't, who will? That's what I always say.
Oh, that's so true. It's so true. My mom would always make fun of me. She's like, how many baths do you need? And I'm like, as many as I want. I was like, I just love it. I have like these like lavender sea salts. Water's always made me feel really like.
Yes. Is it your thing? Yes.
It's my thing. Water is my thing.
Girl, of course, I could just buy like fountains and whatever those things, but I will be in the bathroom in the morning and sometimes I don't even realize it. Like when I get up and the water will just be right. It's so soothing to me to just hear water. Yes.
Me too. Me
And
too.
sometimes I get in the shower and I still have the sink running. Like I'll get in the shower and then I'll look and I'll go, oh, I left the sink on. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Number two, what's a goal or an intention that you've set for yourself this year? Looks like you got a pretty big one with the book, but
honestly, it's just to enjoy everything that's going on. I've worked so hard to get to this point, and I kind of was getting a little nervous about certain things like, okay, with all the podcasts I was doing, am I going to do good on that? And, speaking at events, am I going to do good at that? And even doing the audio, am I going to, and I'm like, no, we're going to enjoy everything.
Yes. Yes, girl.
Like it's okay to be a little fearful, but I'm just going to learn and roll with it and just enjoy it. Cause I'm like, I have worked way too hard to get to this point to not enjoy it.
Exactly. For sure. All right. And the last question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
Where am I currently finding inspiration? I love walking by the beach, again, with the water. And I live really close to the beach. So I do like daily beach walks and just kind of like walking by the water and just letting my mind be free and just not thinking about anything too intensely and just watching the waves, watching the birds. And yeah, that kind of that gives me my inspiration.
I love it. All right. So I know I said that was the last question. That was the last question in 3 things, but one final question for you today is, what are 3 things you'd like our audience to take away from our conversation today?
Well, first, that confusion is a virtue. That's number 1. Number 2 is if you have the comparison thing, I mean, I think we all do to a certain extent, but I would just encourage you to do the Huna Hawaiian blessing and bless that which you desire. When there's somebody that has something you want, just close your eyes and send them a blessing.
Yes.
And that will that will bring blessings to you. That will get you closer to where you want to be and that thing you want. And then the third thing, I would say, trust the timing of your life, because we talked a lot about timing. So I would say, if you can get anything out of this, and it could happen to me, it can happen to you, and you guys just gotta trust.
Awesome. I love that. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you again, everyone. Make sure you go and check out Giovanna's website and pre-order her book, Confused Girl, Find Your Peace in the Chaos. Let's support her and let's use her story as inspiration in our own lives. So, Giovanna, you can always come back here in the future, but thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you so much. You are a gem. Mwah.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.